Good morning and welcome to Morning Java, brought to you as always by Get Go Cafe and Market, where Tom, they've always got the fresh food, the curbside delivery. I just had me a nice wrap over the weekend. It was great. I love their tots. I love their mac and cheese bites. So many great options to get freshly made right at Get Go.
Excellent. I got gas. I filled up on gas. So I got 20 cents off. So it was all good for me as well.
Hey man, that Giant Eagle Advantage card works for GetGo, so definitely take advantage of that as well. But Tom, before we get into any playoff talk or other stuff, we got to talk about the things that are going on with the Steelers roster. Now, an official announcement came for the team on Friday. Of course, we all know Vance McDonald has retired from the Steelers, a move that was pretty much foreseeable. If he wasn't going to retire, he wasn't going to be back on the contract that he was. But the other move that hasn't been officially announced yet, but Dale has reported and confirmed that it's going to happen, is the retirement of Maurkice Pouncey, which, Tom, I mean, we've speculated about it since the Browns lost that this was probably going to happen, but now we're starting to see this come out. I think these are two big, the Vance McDonald was foreseeable and both of these are foreseeable, but the big thing here is that with these two moves, the Steelers would free up $13.2 million in cap space in a year they're going to need a lot more.
Yeah, it certainly helps. Although, one can certainly wonder, you certainly created a hole at center, right? I mean, that's a guy, Pouncey's had a terrific career. I know he's kind of slowed down. Injury a couple of years ago. I don't know if he ever quite got back to the level he did when he had the leg injury. Was still very good. How many times Pro Bowler? But again, yes, you get money, but you have to find a center. And for me, it's such an important position on the offensive line. It's either the second or third position to me, as far as, because you're running. You're calling out signal or plays and stuff, making checks and all that kind of stuff. It's very important. So it will, we'll see where they go. And to me, they need a left tackle, because I doubt if Al's going to be back. So they're going to have to invest a lot in that offensive line, as far as draft picks probably here in the offseason.
No, I agree with you. The offensive line is a huge priority for this team moving forward. I agree with you that Villanueva can't be back. I mean, he had a huge cap number last year. He's a free agent right now. And again, just the way he played last year, I mean, the only way you even think about bringing him back if it was for a ridiculously cheap deal. And even then, I think that's one of the prime investments in this NFL draft is going to be an offensive tackle, whether it's the first round or the second round. But like you said, Pouncey, it's not just about the name. It's not just about physicality. He knew the offense. He knew the checks. He knew when a blitz was coming. He knew what Ben liked as far as protection and where to slide things. That does count for a lot here. Now, like you said, who do you go out and get at center? There's not going to be a whole bunch of free agent centers just on the market that you can just say, here's $7-8 million. Come over here and play well for a year or two. And this is not a great year for centers in the NFL draft, at least for a first round draft pick. So if you're going to draft a center, it's probably in the second or third rounds. And if you're doing that, it's not guaranteed that those guys are going to be instant starters, and that is going to be a question for next year if Pouncey's not around.
I think. Chris, the elephant in the room here, of course, is just that I think fans are starting to understand that this run in some ways is kind of coming to an end. I think you have to start drafting guys. And if that center is not up to speed next year, you still need the position. So they're going to have to confront this. They're going to have to draft a guy in the second, third round, do the best you can, and they've just got to start, rebuilding here. I think this run is kind of, pretty much at an end. Whether Ben comes back or not, I don't. I think they're going to have a hard time making the playoffs next year.
So other things that have to change this season, Tom, is going to be the offensive coordinator position. Now, initially, there was a report from Tom Pelissero who said that it was a done deal. Matt Canada was going to be the Steelers' offensive coordinator for next season. But the Steelers have announced that they interviewed Hugh Jackson, and now there's a lot of questions going around. who could the Steelers look at for offensive coordinator? Our own Dale Lally brought up Pep Hamilton as a guy that maybe they could request for a chance to talk to then. But this is an interesting decision here because you're not just looking for a guy to do next year, whether or not Ben comes back. This is ultimately probably the coordinator that you're asking to draw up the offense that carries this group into whatever comes next for the Steelers after Ben Roethlisberger, because whoever gets this job is probably at least setting something up with the new investments you make at offensive line, running back, and those young receivers with whoever's at quarterback next year.
Yeah, when you mentioned Hugh Jackson, I think about you talk about rebuilding when with Cleveland 1-31.
Yeah,
They completely tore it down to the studs, almost Pittsburgh Pirate like, and everyone kind of remembers that. And I do think in some ways it's a little unfair to Hugh in the fact that I think when you look at his time in Cincinnati, he was a pretty good offensive coordinator there. They had some good years, and they obviously could never win a playoff game, but they got to the playoffs a couple of times with Hugh kind of running that offense. His reputation obviously took a serious hit when he was asked to oversee something that nobody would want to have gone through. And those teams, there wasn't a whole lot of coaching in there where it could have helped as far as X's and O's. Those were just really bad Browns teams. I think he is a pretty good coordinator. And, with Matt Canada, you're just thinking you're going to get a lot more of kind of what it would be a continuation of what we've seen the last couple of years here. So do you want to try something new? Again, we don't, assuming it's Ben, maybe it's not Ben. But I would not judge Hugh Jackson on his time with the Browns because this would be a better team than the Browns had back then. And he's not a bad coordinator.
And that's the bottom line. You have to remember, some guys aren't head coaches. Dick LeBeau was a defensive coordinator for the Steelers, went to coach the Bengals, didn't work out, came back, was a great defensive coordinator again for the Steelers. And for Hugh Jackson, in his time as an offensive coordinator, he's been it for, I think, 5 seasons. And in those years, his top quarterbacks his starting quarterbacks were Patrick Ramsey, Joey Harrington, Jason Campbell, and Andy Dalton for 2 years. And 2 of those years, he had offenses ranked in the top 10 in scoring, and had a few of those offenses ranked in the top 10 in rushing. I think that's the bottom line. He's a guy that's worked as a receivers coach, a quarterbacks coach, and a running backs coach. He has the experience to sort of have a better idea of, hey, this is what is going to be the future that you want this offense going towards. Because on top of people were talking about the quarterback position, you still got guys that you want to develop. You still got guys like Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Kevin Dotson, even guys that you want to see grow. And eventually, if you find out, hey, this is the investment at quarterback moving forward, that you have a plan to move forward with this, and a person like Hugh Jackson could be in the mix there. Again, Dale brought up Pep Hamilton. A name that I saw pop up was Deuce Staley, who's been a running backs coach for the Eagles. He has requested out of his contract with the Eagles because he wasn't brought up for OC, offensive coordinator, and to the point where there's reports now that the Eagles locker room is up in arms about the fact that happened because they thought that he was due for this. And Dale has told me himself that Deuce Staley has had some really good interviews in the NFL when looking around for other jobs. So he might come into this mix. But the bottom line is that the Steelers, I don't think they need to be locked into anybody right now. They need to keep surveying, figure out what the direction of the offense is, and who has the best scheme that might work for what they're doing next season. But of course, they have to be sure about what's going on with Ben Roethlisberger and where they can make the investments. That if he doesn't stick around, because people need to remember, if a rookie's in there, if a average quarterback is in there that you grabbed off of the free agent pile, you still need to find a way to protect them, because if you don't, they're going to get hurt, and then you're going to end up using whoever you didn't want to use a quarterback anyways. But to me, it's about finding the person that helps with whatever that transition is to the style of offense this is moving toward without Bennett in a couple years.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I think right now the emphasis, I think, is going to be more on the players than on the OC, because the Steelers are going to go. They're going through a rebuild here. And we don't even know yet what's going to happen in free agency. That's still a month or so away. it was in March. We don't exactly know the lay of the land of who's going to be here and who's not going to be here. But it certainly is starting to feel with this news about Pouncey that it's going to be a rebuild, especially along the offensive line. The one group the one group that's going to come back, and this feeds back to the offensive coordinator's job, is the receiver group. That's the one group that you should have a lot of those guys come back. And what a new coordinator can maybe do with a passing game that certainly didn't work here last year. And whoever comes in here has got to be more committed to the run. They just can't go through another season like this, just not being able to run the ball down the stretch. I thought that was a huge issue with them down the stretch this year of why they kind of fell apart.
So, Tom, what everyone's going to be talking about for the next 2 weeks are the teams that are playing in the Super Bowl. Of course, Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. But don't forget, in that mix is also guys that didn't even play this last week. Former Steelers, Le'Veon Bell for the Chiefs and Antonio Brown for the Buccaneers. Also, shout out to Jordan Whitehead with his forced fumble, H2P, a Pitt alum right there. But, Tom, the talk that everyone's going to be about is like, again, we have to watch Tom Brady again, and he's in the Super Bowl again, and it's crazy, and he has a chance to win a 7th Super Bowl ring. It's insane.
Yeah, they've played 55 of these or 54 of these things, and this will be number 10 for him.
Yeah, it's his 10th appearance.
He's like fifth. Here was the stat. He's like now he's moved up to the ladder at like 5th all time in wins against NFC teams in the playoffs. Think about that. And he's only been in the NFC 1 year.
1 year.
That's all those Super Bowl wins combined with this year winning 3 games. And I mean, Chris, I don't know what your family situation is like, but I married somebody from Irwin, and we live in Columbus, and it doesn't matter. It sounds like the Steelers are playing the Patriots because my wife just hates Tom Brady and has cheered against him every game here in the playoff run this year because Tom Brady is, of course, one of the very few people that have kind of had Pittsburgh's number over the years. Really in any sport. I can't think of a sport where in the last 20, 25 years where one athlete has had so much success against the Pittsburgh team. Now, maybe the Pirates, of course, because they really haven't been that relevant.
Everybody.
With the other two teams, he's a guy that people love to hate because he's been so successful. And, hey, good on him. I mean, he goes, breaks off with Belichick. Belichick has kind of a lousy year, misses the playoffs, and there's Tom Brady back in the Super Bowl. So, amazing.
And he went to the right place. He went to Tampa Bay, and everyone at first was Tampa Bay, but then you're like, oh, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and then he got Leonard Fournette, and then he got Antonio Brown, and then he got Rob Gronkowski, and the team had Devin White, Antoine Winfield, who didn't even play in this game, and Ndamukong Suh, JPP, Levante David. They balled out. Carlton Davis is having a heck of a playoff run for himself. There's the Tampa Bay. And there's 2 things I've heard a lot of that one, Brady threw 3 interceptions in this playoff game, and 2, it's the team around him that's helping him win. But whether or not that, yes, he threw 3 picks, and yes, Tampa Bay has a very good team around him, but he's still part of the journey, and he's still a huge part of the journey. He's a driving force. I mean, it's the first drive of the game when he walks down the field and he's just dropping passes, into the breadbasket of his receivers. It's just like, well, this is. This seems like he's not 43 years old or anything.
It's you know what it is, Chris? It's almost LeBron-like, right? LeBron can
very good comparison.
Team just going in, and the teams it is decent, and he's that added superstar element that can take a team over the top, and and they are impressive. I mean, did they get after Aaron Rodgers today? You mentioned the defensively. Winfield obviously didn't play. That was a hurt. But, when we look at what happened in the late game, Fisher gets hurt. Their offensive line is a little bit banged up there with Kansas City. That could be a big advantage for Tampa Bay going into the game.
It really could be. Tom Brady is versus Patrick Mahomes again. We saw it a few years ago in the AFC Championship game when Tom Brady came out on top, and now Patrick Mahomes, who's had the experience, and I have to say, Eric Fisher or not, that offense was ridiculous in the AFC Championship game. Just
Uh,
light. I mean, if Mecole Hardman doesn't fumble the ball at the beginning of the game, it's
right.
38-7 in the fourth quarter, and it's
Yeah.
like the Bills never stood a chance, and the Bills were one of the hottest teams in the NFL.
Yeah, but you know what? We see this so many times. A team that's still trying to learn to win. You know, the Bills won a couple of games at home, but I had no confidence in them going on the road and winning at Arrowhead today.
Same.
And again, I think Allen is getting there, but he's not anywhere near to me. For me, he is not on the Mahomes level at all. And that really, in fairness to him, there aren't too many that really are. And it is a great matchup when you look with the quarterbacks, the GOAT who's won all these Super Bowls, and this kid who's trying to win two in a row. It's just wonderful, wonderful quarterback, wonderful player. Seems to be a really good person. You just like it. It's a good matchup. And yes, there's probably some Brady fatigue, but I think it has the potential to be a great game, and I think it'll be a lot of fun.
And it certainly does. And how about this, Tom? The NFL got those huge quarterback matchups in the conference championship game. We were talking back in September. Do they even get to this point? And they got exactly what they wanted. Everybody was watching those games and paying attention. Also, got to give Tom a shout out because of this weekend's games in our website's pick'em stuff. When we pick all the games, Tom is now in sole possession of first place because he picked. I think you picked the Packers and the Chiefs, but because Dale and I think Ramon picked the Bills in their games, you've jumped out to sole possession of first place right there. So everyone's got to know who you got in the Super Bowl. But we got lots of time to do that. So no need to give your prediction right now, my man.
Okay, yeah, I'm starting to feel nervous already. 2 weeks before the game, I don't know which way I'm going to go. But yeah, so Pittsburgh has AB and Le'Veon Bell, right?
Oof,
Right.
oof. Double whammy. One of them's got to get a Super Bowl. One of them's going to get a Super Bowl ring.
Either one of them are they're both. It's just it is amazing in sports, and especially in football, how quickly fortunes turn, isn't it?
It's insane.
You just with Antonio with Bell, one of the 3 or 4 years ago, one of the best running backs in the league, and now he's like a third stringer.
Third string, and think about it. The two different flips that both of them went through. Le'Veon Bell, you could say he was the best running back in football when he was in 2017 with the Steelers. Antonio Brown, he was the best receiver in football for a time. Then both of them fall off the face of the earth. Bell goes to the Jets. They don't even use him a whole lot. He stinks. They stink. He doesn't even want to play there anymore, and it looks like he'll never play in the playoffs again. Antonio Brown looks like he may never play in the NFL again. All of a sudden, these two guys, yes, they're playing minute roles, but they're going to be their team. They're on rosters that are going to the Super Bowl. I think if you had offered either of them that 4 months ago or however long ago when they were in the predicaments that they were, they'd absolutely take it, and they're there right now.
They are, and like you said, one of them is going to end up with a Super Bowl ring. I always find, Chris, there's athletes there are athletes in sports that they don't, and they have a great career and don't win a championship. And I was like, who has their championship ring? Like, there's no lifetime achievement awards in sports, right? You don't, you can't win the Oscar as a lifetime achievement award. You can't win the Super Bowl as a lifetime achievement award. But then there's always these guys that win Super Bowl rings that I don't remember him winning a Super Bowl. How did he get a Super Bowl? He's got somebody's Super Bowl ring. Somebody had a great and they didn't get a Super Bowl ring, and he's got that Super Bowl ring. And one of these guys is going to get a Super Bowl ring as kind of a second, third line guy.